following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, this is Ken Gidge, and this is The Art of Politics. It's hard to believe, but a year and a half ago, we started the show, Art of Politics, which was a simple concept because the Republicans and the Democrats were just not getting together. So I thought, what would we do what would happen if we got the Republicans and Democrats together to see what would happen? And guess what? It was awful. I mean, it always oh, hell with this. Like, oh, let me introduce my guest right here. Mr. Bill O'Brien, how are you?
Representative Gidge,
Right.
It's good to be here, and I think you ought to just fess up right
Just
now.
shut up and just move on.
It's a pleasure once again.
All right, well,
I think you ought to fess up that.
How are you? Why don't we talk back and forth here? Because
let's have an intelligent conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Something about what's good for the state of New Hampshire.
Intelligent, you two guys talking together, I don't think so.
Let me help you out. Isn't today the 100th show?
Yes, well,
So
thank
we
you.
can get that
Thank
out?
you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very, well, the 100th show means that, well, you've been on, I think, the most. I think you've been on 30-something shows. And before you...
Jeez, it only seemed like, you know,
Dave, I know, it seemed
59 or 80 or something.
Dave Robbins was here for a while, then he lost an election and, you know, went another direction. You came on, and then you started a new job, and things got a little bit busy, and I brought Alan here to...
Brought the ratings up.
I bet you did.
Yes,
You did.
without a doubt.
Really? So you dominated. You
I
know,
dominated. This is
Yeah,
like
that would
candy
bring
from
the
a
rating.
baby.
And of course, I always have to explain to people that I apologize. There are only 2 Republicans here, and we all know it takes 4 Republicans to beat up 1 Democrat.
You know, so you started off by saying we would find out what would happen if there'd be a Republican and Democrat together. And so fess up, Ken. You said it to us off air. You want to become a Republican.
And
just fess up, Ken.
Why don't you tell the truth there? No Democrats want to come on with Baldasaro or Bill O'Brien.
Well, how can you? I mean, I think the newspaper can say this is Pope Al.
You want to kiss my ring?
No, I got kiss your ring.
I didn't know that, Al.
Yes.
I'm impressed.
And here's a card that says Art of Politics, but on the back is all my information. But I thought they all have a card.
Since you brought that card out, let's get into that information.
Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about the show just a little, and then we get rolling
'cause
on
I saved the
on to
card
that. Okay,
for a reason.
you save it. Now, the whole idea was to get Republicans and Democrats to come on.
Right.
But what I found is, if there's a Republican on, I can't get Democrats to come on. In fact, I can't get Democrats to come on. No.
Have you noticed, even if we're not here, Ken,
Yeah, I
they're
realize
not showing up?
But also, you do
Because
a
they have
show
to
also,
talk
and
about
you can't
issues?
get Democrats to come on.
No, I can't because I don't want to discuss the issues. How can you sit there for a table for a half hour, an hour, and talk about how you voted in a gas tax, a pain tax, a LLC tax, a campground tax, raise the room and meals tax? How could you talk about that stuff?
You don't. I mean, name calling will only take you so far.
That's
Al.
right.
It'll fill up the first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then you have 55 minutes left. What do you do?
Hold on a second. Did you say a campground tax?
Yes, Maggie Hassan.
No, wait a minute. A campground tax. Don't people go to these
Oh, here we go
campgrounds?
again.
Don't they go to
Here we go
campgrounds?
again.
Don't they
Most
spend
of
their
them-
money? And they're not.
They were
It's the only
taxed.
business in the state of New Hampshire that's not taxed because of the
You know,
Republicans.
They were taxing the ground that we lay our weary bodies
The
on,
people
Ken.
with tents
We're not
in the
talking
campers.
cemeteries.
You
We're
went
talking
after
about going up
low-income
there.
people that go to these campgrounds, because some of them do have deep pockets with them big rigs, but for the most part, they're low-income people with their tents and their trailers.
We're not
wanna go.
talking
You
about
dug in their
them. We're
pocket and took
talking
more
about
money out
the
of them.
money the people get for these people to come up. It's the only business in the state of New Hampshire that's not taxed.
That's not true.
Well, of course it's
That's
taxed.
Of course it is.
It pays a BBT, the
and
business
property
profits tax. It pays a business enterprise tax. Just in the inventiveness of Maggie Hass, and when she was searching around for money to spend from the hardworking taxpayers, she came up with this idea of taxing ground. The ground that
By
you're
the way,
temporarily
Mary,
renting for a day.
You know, I know you're
taxation.
getting old. It
Without
wasn't Maggie Hassan, it
representation.
was Lynch. Maggie
No,
Hassan
no, she was the
wasn't there.
majority
That's
leader.
right.
She brought forth. She
Yes.
was majority leader when there was
11 o'clock
100
at night.
new taxes and fees. She was the majority leader when, in fact, she tried to put wage and price controls on hospitals and doctors. That was her answer to uninsured people.
Today, we came out that here in the United States, with 248,000 new jobs, plus we've gone down 0.2%. It's now, what is it?
What it is the lowest.
5.9,
It's the lowest
and up
labor
here-
market participation
up here in New Hampshire, it's
in about 50
4.2,
years.
But it's not good enough for you guys? 4.2 up here is not good enough?
not good
No,
enough.
because
No.
people are
'Cause it's
leaving the
there?
state. The young
Leaving
people are
the
leaving.
state?
Yes, they are. Age group of 25 to 34 in the last census, it showed that approximately 30,000
And
of them
the
left.
census
Our
was
young
when?
people, our young people have left the
And
state.
that's not because of Democrats.
Absolutely it is. It's because of two.
Almost 10 years of Democrats
I see.
in the
So,
Commonwealth.
We've had 18 out of the last
young people
20
are leaving
years.
because they're because they're Democrats.
No, they're leaving because our economy is stagnating. They're leaving because
Excuse me?
when I became
What?
speaker, we were number 50 in the country
What?
in business taxes. We had the worst business taxes. We moved it to 47, and now we have yesterday Maggie Hassan saying, "Oh, those cruel cuts. They cut business taxes. They went from being last in the nation to 47th in the nation. Those Republicans, how cruel."
And
why doesn't she just say, "I want to raise taxes.
If you were
I
so
want more of your
good
money"?
as a majority, why did they fire you guys?
The same
and
reason
put
they
you into
fired
the minority.
the same reason they fired Terry Norelli. We have wave elections. She lost more votes than I did when she was speaker. She went back to 104 representatives out of 400. In the wave that we were able to
And
stand
then
up
you
against, we barely lost the
lost.
majority.
Look,
we barely lost
you're-
the majority.
Excuse me.
Why-
Excuse me.
why
How
don't
can
you
you
live
have
here for what's
three?
going on now?
How can there be 104 Democrats and the rest Republicans, and you guys lose?
We didn't. We won. We won for the
You
people. We won for
Oh,
the
you
people of
won.
New Hampshire. We won a
Only-
great budget. We
So
won
that- so
reform
that-
legislation.
so that
we
is your
passed
way of-
we
so that
passed
is your
over 80
way-
bills that deregulated the marketplace and took away regulations from personal.
Can we go back to 2014, what's going on here in the state?
No, I'm
Let's
having
talk
a good time with
I know
them.
that, but
I
you
mean,
continue
you
to
know,
go to
yeah.
the past. You continue to find somebody to blame.
But the
Let's take-
problem with the Democrat Party, and Brother Gidge here is an example of it. They're the regressive party. You folks have been mouthing this progressive policy arguments since the time of Woodrow Wilson. It didn't work then. It didn't work with Franklin Roosevelt when it took a mild recession and turned it into a 10-year depression.
Franklin Roosevelt?
Yes.
I mean, are you? Wait a minute. You're talking bad about Franklin Roosevelt?
Let me ask you a question,
I mean,
Ken.
Wait a minute.
Can you?
Didn't he put Social Security in?
Ken, let me ask you.
You didn't like that?
Let me ask you a question, Ken, because I know you're a great historian.
You really don't want people to have Social Security.
Let me ask you a question,
Go ahead.
Ken. I know you're a great historian here.
Thank you.
Did you ever hear about the Great Depression of 1919? Not 1929, 1919. Did you ever hear about that?
Yes, I have.
Don't
Yes.
confuse
Okay.
it. Go slow, baby. Go slow.
And what happened then? What happened then? Who was the president? Well, there was a Republican president. There wasn't there.
I don't know. I don't know.
Indeed, there was. It was,
okay, all right.
and it was Harding. And in those days, there was an understanding that the federal government took care of the borders, regulated commerce between the states. We're 6% of GDP. It's not the way it is now, where federal government.
your point is?
And the point is, they looked at it and said the market will correct itself. In 18 months, it corrected itself, and we went through the 20s with great prosperity. The 1929
until what happened?
Until you have,
Till what happened?
as you always do, you have market contractions. There was less of a contraction in October 1929 than there was in 1919. And yet we had progressives like Herbert Hoover and Franklin Roosevelt that decided federal government has to take care of this.
It's fascinating that you would use 1929. Hold on a second. You've been talking. You do very good. You guys, two to one.
I know.
1929 is quite interesting. How stock market crashed, correct? And it's awfully interesting when there was a Republican president called Bush, and all of a sudden we went. What happened to Bush?
Bush in 1929?
No, we're bringing it up to today.
I think there was a gleam in
you weren't even alive then, or maybe you were. Okay.
So you can't blame it on George Bush. It was 1929. I think he might have been like 4 years old.
And what did they do? They deregulated exactly what you guys wanted to do. A lot of stuff within the Wall Street, and this is the great crash that we had. Now what? Oh, Dodd-Frank? That just came in last year. For God's sake.
But that's what that was.
Are we in the 1920s now, or more recently? I'm trying to figure out where you are here.
Baldasaro.
I've had this conversation with him before, and I explained to him the last 2 years who was in charge of the House, and the Senate. It was the Democrats. Okay, and their spending and everything else that was going on. They controlled the purse.
You know what you guys forget especially because you want to win elections, it's obvious. You forget that we just still going through, coming out of one of the worst recessions in the history of this country. And who put us there?
And you exacerbated
Republicans. And now you want to go back to Republicans? Who wants to go back to Republicans? I don't want to go back to Republicans.
It is in the nature of a free market system that there's going to be expansions and some contractions.
In Iraq? $1 trillion?
This actually illustrates something that is very important, and I think the listeners ought to understand.
Here we go.
The
100th show.
The Democrats seek utopia, and the problem in seeking utopia is... Well, see, that's it. You're thinking...
That's Maggie Hassan's spending.
You make a mess out of things.
That's the governor's spending right there.
All right, I got it.
Because the shortfall in tax revenues, that are going on in the state here today, on the overspending from the governor.
This looks like ashes. Has Maggie been burning money again?
That's what we need to be discussing. What's going on here?
I opened the wrong box. I got somebody's...
She's been
Why
burning
are you trying to keep us out of talking about what's going on here in New Hampshire? Why are we going on the past here? Because we already know the faults.
The present is we're 4.2.
And you think
more
that's
jobs
beautiful.
are coming up. The economy is getting better. And it's you guys who want to walk around on a sunny day with umbrellas because all you want is dark and gloom. You don't want to admit that anything good has happened.
You know, you're going through...
Anything good happened?
No, it hasn't.
Nothing.
No, because
4.2 is not good.
Are you going to let me have an answer? You're just going to keep on saying 4.2.
I will.
Because the answer is clear, and no matter how many times you say it isn't clear, it is. The clear answer is that the job force is shrinking. People are leaving the job force.
Our kids are not here.
So it looks like there's an unemployment rate that's shrinking.
Is that your excuse?
How many are collecting
No, that's not an excuse. That's what's happening.
Oh, okay. You're saying how many have left?
Actually, yeah.
No. We're
actually among
1.3 something. That doesn't change.
I have 7 kids now. One of them work in New Hampshire. My daughter there is staying in school to get a master's.
That's the reason why. I got a son who's in China.
There's no jobs for young kids. You Democrats got blinders on.
Us Democrats?
You have blinders on.
Us Democrats.
We need to do what we have to do to attract our kids to come back. Jobs here in New Hampshire. My wife drives to Lexington every day. She's got a computer science degree. She's a global information systems. Okay, she's a geek. She's one of the best in her business. She can't find a decent job that pays good here in New Hampshire. She drives an hour to Lexington.
New Hampshire used to be.
You're talking about one of the biggest areas in the United States, the 128 area. No, come on now.
You're trying to find excuses
that is a magnet.
Instead of solutions.
That is a magnet. Even the businesses you had was where? It was in Cambridge.
Will you help us come up with solutions?
Now you're outside.
You know what?
That's a big business.
I think I've told you the story of how I work with companies that bring in subsidiaries of European countries into New England. And I have talked to those folks time and again saying, come to New Hampshire. We have empty mill space in Manchester. We have places you can put your business in Salem, Nashua. And you know what they tell us? We can't do that. We've gone to the accountants and they say you have some of the highest business taxes in the region, the highest in the region.
Taxes.
Your energy, your electric costs are out of sight. Your workers' compensation used to be in great shape, but after 18 years of Democrat governors, it's now one of the worst workers' compensation systems in the country. It's very, very expensive. And they say, worst of all, you're over-regulating and you're going in the wrong direction. I can recall one company that makes hydro generators for small dams, $500,000 to $5 million installations. I tried to get them to come up here with 50 jobs that pay $35 to $50 an hour, manufacturing jobs, or doing the final fitting. And you know where they put it? In Westboro, Massachusetts.
Well,
and we got to work on that.
You were the Speaker of the House, and you had the two years to do it. What have you done?
Because he
What have you done?
Okay, let me answer that question.
Go ahead.
Let me answer that question.
I mean,
I'll tell you what we did.
So you got rid of people who are still leaving.
I'll tell you what we did. We lowered 20 taxes. We balanced the budget without new fees and new taxes.
Oh, don't
you
go
gotta,
through.
you gotta give
let's not go through that.
That's true.
Ken, you gotta give me.
No.
You asked me a question.
The
It's not
50,000
fair.
to
It's not fair to the
100,000
viewers
Okay.
that you won't let me answer the
all right,
question.
go ahead.
We reduced or eliminated 80 different business regulations. For example, one of them was that the Department of Labor was walking into businesses and finding technical violations and finding them on the spot. And we said, if it's not a health or safety violation, you're warned first. What we're trying to do is return New Hampshire to a state which is open to business, not a state that penalizes business. That's what we're doing, and that's what we want to do again, and that's what we will do when we go back in the majority. Whether I'm Speaker or not, we will do that.
You know, you guys, as I said before, and I'll say it again, you guys are like sunny day, umbrella, all sorts of excuses. Nothing good is taking place.
Ken,
when we have 4.2 unemployment compared to the rest of the country, no matter in jobs, housing is up, building is up, but yet you guys find nothing good.
Foreclosures are up. You're right.
Nothing is good?
You're wrong. Foreclosures are up. Okay, you're not.
Foreclosures are so way down.
If we're doing so great, why is the governor telling the commissioners, I need to cut your budgets? We need $30 million to cover the spending.
Excuse me.
Come on.
Excuse me. You
it's
complain.
right here.
Excuse me.
Look,
You complain.
shortfalls in tax revenue.
You complain about the governor. She is trying to tighten things up, and now you
because of the spending that's going on.
Is that good? Is this good? Is she doing a good job?
It's about time.
Is she doing a good job?
She's doing an awful job.
Revenue. Okay. First, she's doing a bad job.
The month before
she's
election.
Taking this.
A month before election.
Oh, here we go.
So all of a sudden she wants to start cutting.
Oh, yeah.
A month before election. That's terrible. Just like she did with the veterans.
Terrible? What are you guys
Just
nuts?
like she did with the veterans thing.
You guys are...
2 months before the election. Oh, look at me. I'm the great saver for the veterans. 100 days, we'll get you jobs. You'll get help the businesers. BS. Other states did it 2-3 years ago.
If you guys were so good and you had a majority of 300, we're at 104 to what? 298? 297.
You know, the problem, Ken, is
they get rid of you?
Ken,
if you guys were so
the problem
good?
with your questions like this is when we start to answer it, you talk over us.
Right.
Okay, I'd be glad to answer that question.
If you stop.
You said why were you guys so good?
That's the same question when you guys keep using your umbrella under the sun, and guess what? There are some good things taking place.
Are these rhetorical
but you
questions?
can't find
Are these
anything
rhetorical
good.
questions you're coming out with?
Read the newspaper. Read the paper. Don't believe us. Read the paper.
And she's doing a good job by doing that.
Oh.
It's a bad job.
Why did it take almost 2 years?
But if the Republicans were doing it, was that be a good job?
You know, son, Bill, let me talk to you for a second, man, okay? What they don't understand is they think 4.2 is great because we're above everyone else in the country. But what they don't realize, we still got people unemployed. We will not be happy until every person in New Hampshire is working.
And I think the Democrats feel the same. But of course, you guys want to get rid of the unions, right? To work for less money.
Don't get rid of the unions.
You guys don't want unions
false.
up here. But the unions don't seem to, the companies don't seem to be upset about the unions. Have you heard anything about that?
Oh, of course I have.
From who?
From Governor Pence. I met Governor Pence of Indiana 2 weeks ago. Let me complete my
Did he
answer.
move up
Will you
here
let
to
me
New
complete
Hampshire?
my answer,
Did he
Ken?
move up to New Hampshire?
Will you let me complete my answer?
You may.
Okay, so I met Governor Pence of Indiana about 2 weeks ago, and he said, I know you. You're the person who worked so hard in Hampshire to get right to work to pass. And he said, want to know what we did? We passed it after you. And he said, it's the best thing our state has done in years. When we passed it, I got a call from Caterpillar. And they said, you know what, Governor? We're going to close the plant in Ontario and we're moving it down to Indiana. And he said something directly to go to the remark you just made. He said, companies will never tell you directly, go do this, because they don't need labor trouble. But when it's done, they'll come to you and say, thank God you did it. We're coming into Indiana.
What state is that?
Indiana.
And how is their economy, by the way, compared to New Hampshire's?
The economy is growing compared to New Hampshire. But then again, Rhode Island's economy is growing more than New Hampshire. Massachusetts is. It's because we've had 18 out of 20 years.
Economy is growing, and what is it? Is it better than New Hampshire?
It's growing faster, yes.
Well, it's growing faster, but is it 4.2 unemployment, or is it more?
You can if you push people out of the labor force, they're not counted as unemployed. You get that? That's what's happening. That people, when you lose your job when you're 55 years old, you don't get another job, and after about 18 months, they say you're not unemployed because you don't exist. So it's really unfair to the people of New Hampshire that you keep on saying the times are good, because there's people out there without jobs.
No. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry to defend.
And they've fallen off the radar
with no jobs. We got that. We understand. Democrats understand. I got Democrats who don't have jobs. I got it. So don't get upset about that.
But the bottom line is,
when I say 4.2, and you're talking about another state that has a right to work law, okay? And I'm asking you, how good are they compared to New Hampshire?
They're doing great.
Do we need right to work up here?
You can take a look at the two economies, and I've seen the studies. When they adopted right to work, if you start both economies at a 0 point, they've been going like this, and we've been doing same thing for the last 2 years as we did for the 10 years before that, just stagnating along.
We can talk about the same thing. Let's talk about insurance. How about Obamacare? I'm not hearing too much about that anymore, especially from the poor states who are using Obamacare. So now,
do you want to?
Why did we do Obamacare? Can you just back up a bit?
No.
Why did we do it? Why did we do it? Was it to cover uninsured? Was it to cover the uninsured?
I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you do that. You want to get rid of Obamacare?
No, I'm just asking.
Do you want to get rid of Obamacare?
I'm asking you a question. My question first. Why did we do Obamacare? Why did we do Obamacare?
To help people who do not have insurance.
And how many were there? How many were there when we started?
80 million?
No, it's more like 45 million. Know how many there are now? 47 million, Ken. We've spent $1 trillion on this fiasco.
There we go, on a fiasco.
I have people who come to me with $5,000 family deductibles for policies that cost them 20 or 30% more than when Obamacare started, and we did that to them for what? So we could increase uninsured?
Why don't we talk about New Hampshire? Under Mr. O'Brien and his crew, you made it illegal for us to form an insurance exchange. So what happened?
So we didn't waste the $300 million that Oregon did when they started when it crashed and they had to go to a federal one.
When we started this, it was $3 million. Now it was $30 million. Now it's $300 million.
That's what Oregon paid.
But let me ask you a question.
That's what Oregon paid.
We did not have an exchange. So the insurance companies took it over and got rid of 10 hospitals.
Insurance companies didn't take it over.
No.
Ken, you got to stick with the facts, my friend. The insurance companies didn't take it over.
The insurance company didn't take it over?
No, the federal government put it in. It's a regional.
I beg your pardon? The federal government did not put that in. The insurance company went to the federal government and said, we will do it this way, and the federal government agreed with that.
That's just not true. That's just fiction. That's just absolute fiction.
Excuse me, I thought, are you under the impression, all right, you're not going to get away with this one. Are you under the impression that the insurance company did not go to the federal government and say, look, we've got a plan. You don't have to do it. And the federal government said, okay, go ahead.
Back on Earth here, actually what happened was that the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act said if a state doesn't set up an exchange, then the federal government would do it. That's the whole case there
right.
that just came, that's up in the Supreme Court.
And what happened?
What happened
So
was
you
we
did
have
what?
Maggie. I
So
mean,
you
Gene
made it
Shaheen-
illegal to
Gene
get
Shaheen has
an
left us
insurance
with one
exchange. Is that
insurer.
correct? Well,
One insurer.
all
Gene
right, okay,
Shaheen,
all right.
and she left.
And did I get on a bill with you to see
Yeah.
if we get more?
Yeah, you did.
All right, okay.
You did. And did not every Democrat, but you and maybe two others, vote against that?
Wait, can you answer his question?
I agree with
Wait,
you.
Can you answer his question first? Because we keep going round in circles here. Ask the question again.
Well,
That's
no,
a-
I'm going to come back to this. Go
Okay, we
ahead.
can, but
ahead.
we're still in it. But ask him the question about the Democrats voting against it.
Well, you
What
did,
him
and we talked about it, and I was really pleased that we were able to have a great discussion. And the bill was to allow any citizen in New Hampshire to purchase medical insurance across state borders because we've been left effectively with one insurance company, and that's Anthem.
And this was
And then-
wrong.
and
This was wrong, and
that's-
we know that.
And
We know that.
we've seen the result of it. High rates. We have some of the highest, if not the highest, in the country. And Ken, you voted for it, and I think it was a well-constructed bill, and I appreciate it. Two or three other Democrats voted for it. Every other Democrat in the House voted against it.
Well,
Why would they do that?
No,
Why would they do that?
Well, because
Why wouldn't they give freedom to you talk about freedom? Why wouldn't they give people freedom and choice?
We discussed this before.
that makes
remember?
it sound
And you said
so
no.
good. But the problem
Well, thank
is
you. I'm
the
not trying to
way
make it
that
sound bad.
Can you, how come? I'm interested
How
to find
come
out.
what?
What he just said. Why did all
Oh,
the
and
Democrats
by the way,
vote it down?
by not having an insurance exchange, us
We do.
running in
We
the
do.
federal,
It's the federal
in the
one.
federal
Federal
government
exchange.
running. Do you
No,
realize
you just said, wait.
that the
I want to hear
Republicans?
you just admitted the federal government's running. You said the insurance companies
Yeah.
did before.
Don't you
We
think-
just said
that's
that.
right, he just said it, yeah. Don't
Said
you
what?
think that taxpayers...
I used to try cases, and when I was cross-examining witnesses, I'd wait for again consistency, and I'd say, Your Honor, can we read back his earlier testimony?
Richard, read back.
Read back that
We
earlier
want that back.
Don't you think we're better off letting the people of New Hampshire go to the federal government, so let the federal government pick up the cost
It's
rather than New
not
Hampshire
the
taxpayers?
federal government. That's the problem.
Who
And-
is it?
And you Republicans, politicians,
illegal
had no
in New Hampshire.
idea that Anthem, one insurance company,
We
was
knew.
going to come along and they were going to make this deal whereby the government agrees that Anthem can do it, but they're going to eliminate 10 hospitals.
so
and one
Ken-
is in the city of Nashville.
Ken-
you guys are for that?
Ken,
So
Ken,
how many
Ken,
people did you
Ken,
put out of
do you
work by doing that?
Do you know even what an
How
exchange?
many hospitals
do you
did
know
you
what
put
an
out of that?
exchange is?
Yes, I do.
What is an exchange?
And in fact, if you don't have
If we had had a state exchange, would we all of a sudden
we're
have
gonna lose.
10 anthems? There's only one. Whether we have a state exchange or a federal
Wait, excuse
exchange,
me.
there's one
You
anthem,
told
one insurer in
me
the state.
federal government was going to run it.
They
The
are
federal,
running it.
They are
no,
running
that's
it.
not. No. The federal government does run these. Anthem came along, which you didn't even know that this was going to happen,
all knew they
because
were gonna
I
say it.
cannot
How did we
believe
know?
that you would almost
Ken.
put 10 hospitals out of business because of doing this.
You know, you've said that, and that's an awful accusation to make.
That's false. That's
So,
right.
so in fact, we're going to now examine what you just said.
Okay.
The Affordable Care Act says either a state or the federal government can set up an exchange.
Right.
Okay. We chose not to
State
do it.
is who? Is us. We're the
No.
government.
No. It's
We're the
it's,
state.
it's actually some bureaucrats over in Hazen Drive in Concord. That's who it is, Ken.
Right.
It's not you and me.
Yeah, no.
You know, but it's
No, believe it or not, we are the government. Okay,
But
so
okay, and so at that point, according to the regulations of under the Affordable Care Act, there's going to be an exchange. Either the state's going to pay for it, the federal government. We chose not to pay for it. Then they go out and say, in the exchanges to provide a way for people to buy insurance. Now, whether it's the federal government setting it up or the state setting it up, there was only going to be two alternatives in New Hampshire. You go to Anthem if you want private insurance. You go to Medicaid if you can't get private insurance. And whether it's federal or state. Now, having said that, if we set it up, Anthem would have came to the same conclusion. The only way we can get our rates down is to have preferred
And the
providers,
difference-
and 10 hospitals weren't preferred
And the
providers. It
difference
had nothing to
that
do with
you
the
guys
choice.
did by doing that and letting Anthem do that eliminated 10 hospitals. We lost
it was going to
jobs
happen.
here in
It
the
was,
state of New Hampshire.
it was caused by Obamacare.
Are you telling
it was
me?
caused by
Are
Obamacare.
you telling me if you were running the insurance exchange in the state of New Hampshire,
telling you you're wrong.
the government, you would eliminate a hospital in Nashville?
No.
You would eliminate 10
Can you
hospitals?
really got to be consistent
not
what you're
being
saying.
honest.
Now
You're
you're
not
saying the
being telling the
exchange
truth.
did it and the insurance
That's
company
not true.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
No,
Who
I
did
didn't.
it?
I
Who
said
did
if
it?
you had an exchange,
If you had an exchange,
Anthem did it.
then the federal government had the exchange.
And-
Why are you blaming us for what the
by
federal
the way,
government did?
I happen to be in commerce, which is banking and insurance. And when I went to Anthem
You
and
might
I
have been
said,
sick that
I
day.
would love you to tell us why you got rid of Nashua. They said to save money. Fine. Put one more hospital in. How much will it cost you? And you know what somebody came up to me and said from Anthem, who I'm not going to give the name. They whispered in my ear, they're never going to tell you. Why aren't they going to tell you? I can't say that. So I got a question to
Okay.
ask you. If people in Nashua and across the state are losing money because of the way that it is set up, wouldn't you want to know from Anthem how much it costs or how much money they're saving?
I tell you
They're
what.
not telling you
I tell
that.
you what I'd like to do. I'd like to get rid of Obamacare, so that wouldn't have happened in the
And
first
do
place.
what?
Hey, Bill,
That wouldn't have
you
happened
know
in the
something?
do
first
what?
Before
place.
Obamacare even came in, Antrim was having problems with other hospitals that got knocked out. They went to court. Didn't they go over a price
No,
because
no.
Antrim were paying 27 cents on the dollar? There were some issues that were going on.
No.
That's
Everything.
no.
So, anyways,
Do a Google search.
if
Don't
we
believe
would have
Al
had
Baldasaro.
an insurance exchange where Republicans or Democrats, because we are pretty large here in Hillsborough County for representatives, we wouldn't have got rid of one hospital in the city
That's
of
not
Nashua.
It
which takes
wasn't a choice of New Hampshire whether we put in an exchange or not. The regulations said you had to allow companies to bid. There was, whether it was a state exchange or a federal exchange, there was one company to bid. When it bid, at that point it had a monopoly. It decided to make more money by having preferred providers. That's a problem throughout the country. What they have a term for it, Ken. They're calling it a narrow network.
Yeah, like
Google narrow network. And you're not going to come up with New Hampshire. You're going to come up with Obamacare.
The people who need
Bill, can I ask you a
insurance.
Can I ask Bill a
No,
question?
hold on. Let me get through this for a second. Then, then you can ask a question. We're going to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Never mind. Ask me a question. We'll move on. So we go around on this. Go ahead.
Bill, can you answer, there's a speaker here. Would you have sent Medicaid expansion to the duty experts in commerce, or would you send it like the Democrats did to the Finance Committee to vote on an insurance Medicaid expansion where they sold it at 48,000 people are going to need, and I understand it's less than 11,000.
Right.
Would you have done that like the Democrats done?
Yeah, knowing that Ken was somebody that would come around to be understanding we should be able to purchase medical insurance across state lines, I'd want folks that have some expertise
In
to
the
look at
Commerce
it.
Committee, right?
Absolutely.
And that didn't happen.
Absolutely.
How come?
I agree.
You're on the Commerce Committee.
Don't ask me.
Why didn't Speaker
Don't
Novelli do
ask
that,
me.
send it to Commerce?
Don't ask
Because
me.
it was being
They
run.
Don't
It was
ask
being
me.
run through her allies.
railroaded
because he
through.
knew it would never stand the light of
Right.
day.
And 11,000
Well,
people,
you
and it
know,
was sold at
we
48,000.
went over that.
They did.
First of all, there was something like 48,000 people, and we know 61% of them were women, and then Republicans
Oh,
are
here
having
we go
trouble
with the
with women.
That's right.
And now you're only
We
saying
hate-
just
you know
11,000
something?
people have signed up for this.
I have 3 daughters.
No,
I've got
wait,
5
no,
granddaughters.
somebody
I have a
out there
wife.
will check this. Are
Come
you
on,
saying
will ya?
only 11,000 people signed up for it?
Yes, what I'm saying
Is
is,
that what
as
you're
of
saying?
about a month or
11,000?
two,
I'm focusing on you earlier,
Hey,
Mark. I'm
tell
having
you
trouble
what,
with women.
Yeah.
Do I have to check
Yes.
my wife and my
Check-
daughters?
Check the newspapers.
You know something I
Okay,
don't
the
know.
articles that went out.
Yes, well.
Check the newspapers. Well, they
Yeah,
said
no,
it about 2 months ago.
But
almost
wait a minute,
11,000.
you're running for the speakership, and you should
Well, I
know
don't
the.
know. You say I'm having trouble with women here. You got me worried here.
Yeah, me too.
So
My
the,
daughters are
You have a
probably
bunch
gonna
of
be mad.
daughters,
I
and
have
I'm not.
5 granddaughters.
Yeah, and Judy
I'm
there.
really
I
having
wouldn't
this
want to
isn't
have
this
trouble
bad
with
at
Judy.
all.
Yeah, no, not at all.
There's only
no.
2 of them. I could
Jesus,
take this.
we're terrible. War on women. Us Republicans are bad. We're terrible, us Republicans.
You know,
God help
What
us.
I've been
it is-
telling them.
God help those Republicans that want you to keep government out of your pocket,
You know,
out of your houses.
we make fun
smaller
of it
government.
because it's so baseless. In fact, it
Yeah.
really is. On one level, it's
We're bad
amusing.
people.
On the other level, it's just a horrendous thing
But
to
you
be
see, I'm
saying.
sitting here
It's just-
with two men who I know who care deeply for their women. They have women in
love
their
my-
family,
I married an angel.
obviously, and are very good. But the overall look of when the Republican Party does not want to make sure that everyone is
Where
insured.
is your proof?
Guess
Where's your
what?
proof?
61% of that are
Where's your
women.
proof?
Who
It
said we don't
doesn't
wanna make everyone
It
insured?
doesn't
Where-
make you
where-
guys look
You
good.
just made
Who
a
said
statement
that? Who
that.
said that?
Where does
Who
that?
said
Give
that?
us a fact.
Okay,
Who said that?
what have you
Who
got?
said that?
What difference? Tell me what you have other than what there is.
You want to know? Because he put in a bill with you that you voted for to go across lines
Oh, come
to help
on.
people here in New Hampshire for lower cost insurance.
this year, how many insurance companies are coming in? 25, 30 are
Bill,
coming
blink
in
your eye.
this
We don't know
year.
that. We don't know
There's
that.
a lot
Blink your eye.
coming in.
They're coming after the election.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Do
He'll
you
be
remember?
here.
You know, what was one of the most extraordinary things, and because everybody likes John Lynch, and he's a nice guy and everything. Do you remember before the 2010 election? There was. You probably remember this. There was this big announcement. There's a big company coming to New Hampshire. I can't tell you who. This is John
After
Lynch.
the election.
I can't tell you who, but it's coming. You ought to know it. And it never happened. It never happened.
Just like the insurance companies.
Where's that company,
the
John?
check's in the mail.
Where's
Back
it?
in the
That's-
history, but
that's-
still
in the mail.
4.2
Where'd that come?
to the national average of 5.9, and I
Okay.
just can't. You guys keep seeing. You want clouds. You don't want to say anything good about New Hampshire.
Are you
What's
happy?
good about the state?
You know,
Just the way it is right now.
that's like your statistics, like saying fewer people are hospitalized, and that's a good thing, isn't it? You don't talk about the fact that the rest died early, and so it looks like the hospital's doing
because they
pretty
didn't
well.
have insurance
There's
because
fewer,
the Republicans
fewer
didn't want
inmates
to
in
give
there.
them.
Are
The
you
people have
happy?
been
I'm not-
forced
we're not
out of the
talking about
marketplace.
jail. We're
We're-
talking
people
about
have
the
been
state of New
forced.
Hampshire.
People have been forced out of the marketplace. If you're 55 years old and you lose your job in this economy, not the economy that we had 20
Excuse
years
me,
ago,
excuse me.
this economy, you're out. You're done. You're not going to get a job again.
Do I hear a bill coming up here that we're going to write? Everyone at 55 should have the ability to have to get a job.
No,
Is there any discrimination?
Why should government
Is
get
there
involved?
discrimination?
No, high taxes
No.
shouldn't force out companies.
That's right.
High electric
What
rates shouldn't
companies
force
have
out.
left?
Ruger?
What companies
There
are
a bunch of
coming in?
companies.
What companies are coming
Yeah,
in?
well, that's a short list. That's a real short
Can I-
list.
can I-
All right,
Unfortunately.
hold on.
No,
Let's,
no, I've been trying to get you a
let
question
us
on the
change this.
economy.
Well,
Let's
I
go
know,
to
but
the
we're gonna-
economy.
All right.
I want to something quick here.
All right.
First of all, I think under your watch we were 43 or something as the speaker, and the
no.
taxes. And the,
We're actually number 50.
We're number 50 now.
And we moved it up
But
to
my
47,
question
much
is,
to Maggie Hassan's displeasure.
why did Maine? Why is our economy below now, Maine and Vermont, under these Democrat governors? How come?
In
Why- no,
Vermont,
answer.
in
Why is
Vermont,
we stagnant our
so
growth?
are you saying that Maine has less than
What are we at 0.9 on
4.2%?
our growth? We've been not
No,
really
I'm
stagnant.
asking a question.
Yes, under Maine and Vermont. I just read an article about
those
that.
numbers you guys can argue about, and you can say all the reason why is we can make everything better, but this is what we have right now, and it ain't bad. And I don't think people really want to go back.
It is.
I don't
yeah,
think they want to go back to the
Can
Democrats.
go to door to door. I've been
Republicans.
going door to door, and I bet you Al has too. And are people afraid of losing their jobs? Not so much, but I'll tell you what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the fact that because they haven't had a raise, they or their husband or their wives haven't had a raise in 6 or 7 years, and they're falling behind.
shame.
They go to the supermarket and they're told by your president's statistics that there's no inflation. Yet they go to the supermarket and they know there's inflation.
are up.
They're working harder. They're falling behind. And in New Hampshire, we never had that before. We were always a dynamic economy. When I became speaker, you asked me about when I was speaker. When I became speaker, we were 27th in the country, according to the CNBC poll, in terms of attractiveness to business. We raised that up to 19. In 2 years, by the cuts we did in taxes, by the cuts in regulations, and by fiscal responsibility, we moved that up from 27
and
to
you
19.
brought a lot of businesses in
And
here, of course.
in two
you
years,
brought a lot of businesses in there because of that.
years,
growth in
in
my
2
district.
years of Maggie Hassan,
Go to
that
the
has gone
airport.
down to 31. If we have another 2 years like that, we're going to be in the category, and this is not hyperbole, this is fact, we'll be in the category of Mississippi. and Alabama, and states that are
How-
truly
how-
the backwater of the
As
nation.
an individual lives up here in New Hampshire, how can you make a statement like that?
But it's fact.
Because you guys want to win elections.
It's CNBC. It's not us. It's the
This governor has done so much for the state.
What is she, like what? Tell me what. Like
what?
Like
She checked
What did
out of
she
the
do?
budget discussions
Wait, tell me
in
what. What did
February when
do?
she didn't get her,
Give us something.
illegal
Bill, can you
consuming.
stop for a second? Tell us
We're
what
changing-
what
we're
did she
changing
do?
the subject.
Tell us what did she
We're
do
gonna
for the
change the
state?
subject.
Oh, we're going to change the subject.
It's an opportune
I
time for
rest
you.
my case. I rest my case.
It's an opporune time for you
We
to
can
change
go
the
on 4
subject.
hours.
It's a shame
like
when you
this.
got a Democrat that
Okay,
can't stand up and tell what the governor did.
we
what
have,
she did right.
we have a great senator
She looks good in pictures.
named Shaheen, who started off, I believe she was in the House, Senate, first governor, woman governor. Now she is
Is she,
first
is she one of those
Senate-
senators
and
from
now-
the IRS?
now we
Is
have-
she one of those senators
and
from the
now
IRS
now we
that
have-
wrote that letter to the IRS saying target conservative
Yeah,
groups?
I think that's her.
You know,
That's the one you're talking about?
Nixon got himself
And
impeached for
you-
doing
and-
that,
and so
but she's a great senator because she tried to misuse the IRS.
Is you bring someone
She
from
voted for that budget
Massachusetts,
there to cut the
someone
veterans'
from
retirement
Massachusetts
disabilities.
in here.
Didn't
Wait, excuse me. He was born here.
who?
The individual, I'm not going to mention his name.
Scott
He was born
Brown.
here.
I'll
All right,
mention
he
his
was
name.
born here.
Unlike Gene Shaheen was born in Missouri,
Right,
that
yes.
carpetbagger.
As a matter of fact, Scott
Holy
Brown had paid
mackerel!
property
Did
taxes.
we have to go to somebody to Missouri
Didn't
to
Scott
find a
Brown pay
senator?
property taxes for over 30 years on his property in Rye? He paid taxes longer than I've lived here.
If anybody
was
out,
born
if
here.
anybody out there believes that he's better than Gene Shaheen, yeah,
Without a-
I'll bring some of these over to
Gene
your house and
Shaheen-
spread it on
Hey,
your,
let me
on
ask you
your
something.
lawn.
Did Gene
That's
Shaheen?
awful.
Were you here?
Hey, you
Ken,
really
were you-
honestly believe you'd be better than Gene
Yes,
Shaheen?
yes.
Yeah, by
Excuse
far.
me.
Absolutely.
So in other words, you
Absolutely.
can have one more Republican in there that doesn't do anything.
Ken, to the veterans here. Look.
Wait,
They
wait,
don't-
wait.
they don't do
When
anything.
is the last time? When is the
veterans.
last time the Senate under Harry Reid's passed a budget? When was the last time that it passed a bill? You say do nothing? Harry Reid is doing his darndest to make sure these senators don't have to be held to anything.
Republicans from the House go home without passing a bill?
No, they
that
passed the budget and they left it to the yes.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
in other words,
And Harry
people
Reid
who
wouldn't take it
needed
up.
like 12 more weeks of unemployment,
run
did
something
they
by what
pass
the
that?
Democrats are trying to do.
Harry Reid wouldn't even take up a budget.
Oh, no.
Can
Hold on a second.
I ask you a
Let us
question?
back down
Can I
there.
ask you a question?
In
What if we
5
left
years,
the term
how
without passing a
One
How
budget?
budget.
about people who have student loans, Republicans?
Oh, here we go
Guess
again.
what?
Here we go
you Can't
again.
you can't refinance your own student loans?
They put in a bill with so much bull in there, spending, and they wanted the Democrats
They
to suck them
wouldn't
in
even
to spend.
discuss it.
Because look at the spending
Guess
that
what?
was in that bill.
Honest to God, aren't Republicans?
You're
don't
not
they
being
owe money,
honest.
or all the
You're not-
Republicans
Ken,
rich?
You're not being
they don't
honest
owe
with
money.
the people on that bill. There was more pork in that bill, naturally. Now, how come you never let me ask a
There was
question?
more pork. How much? What was
Can I-
pork in that bill?
Pork
Go
was
ahead,
the
tell me.
spending,
What?
okay?
Tell me,
Pork
get
was the-
one
Look
thing.
at the budget Shaheen voted for. She voted to cut retirees, disabled veterans, okay, COLA.
Oh,
Did she cut her own pay?
that's
No,
it,
she
that's
didn't. She went after the disabled veterans. Kelly Ayotte is the only one to stand up.
Kelly
Here,
Ayotte-
Here's the facts right here.
Don't.
Okay, this is from the Marine
please,
Corps.
Don't bring.
Proposed
don't,
changes
don't
to
bring,
TRICARE.
Don't bring Kelly
The Democrats
Ayotte
are
up to
going
me.
after the veterans' retirement, their disability, their health insurance, their dental. It's here in black and
We're
white.
gonna change the subject.
I'm so disgusted.
You got
at
him
what
on
they're
that one.
doing.
He's
We're
gotta
gonna
change-
change the
give-
subject.
Give the guy some space.
They
He's got
use
to
us
change the
veterans
subject.
as political pawns. Look what I did. You did nothing. You voted to take away their benefits.
We have a few people in the room
no, they're-
listening to this, and they're going, "What's going on? What's going on?"
Ken,
But then,
did
wait,
the governor? She did the
you
right
shut
thing
him
by
up
stopping.
for a
No,
little? Hold on.
no, because you said the governor did some good
you
things.
set him
You
up,
couldn't
Ken?
say anything.
I-
I'm going to tell
It's
you.
my fault.
Hey, no.
Will you?
Didn't the governor do
Here,
a good thing
calm down,
about
calm
the
down.
travel? Said nobody travel.
yeah.
Where did
except-
she go?
except for her, she went to
Except for
Turkey.
her, she went to Turkey.
Yeah, yeah.
But nobody else can travel. We got to save money. She's traveling all over the place.
Anyway,
Am I
this
right?
Is, this is. This
Ken,
is,
am I right?
This is a pretty
Ken,
good
answer
show.
me, am I
If
right?
you like it or not.
Ken, am I right?
Ken,
Yeah.
Ken,
Okay,
he's
all
got you
right.
on that one. You better change the subject.
We've got to change the subject.
He couldn't even say what the governor did good.
Question is, do you think the type of show like this would go any place other than, any place
I
in the
think they,
state?
I think they ought to
Do you think
consider
they're-
admitting us here.
Yeah, but see, some people that watch it.
Truth be known, well, at least you two. I've been watching you two.
See, some people when they watch it, when they see that you, when the facts come up, you get all red
Oh,
and
facts.
flooded and,
Facts.
you know, who needs facts?
Fact of the matter is,
Who
if you
needs
look at the
facts?
economy, it's better, but you guys have got to find everything bad about it.
Well-
Question, do you think this show has done any good to assist Republicans and Democrats from, you know, getting to know each other? I mean, the show has to have
You know
something.
what's really positive about this, because we really do go at each other at times, and,
Oh, yeah.
and all that. But the fact that you can really differ sharply, and we do, you know, we do quite sharply on a number of different bills and just a political philosophy. But we don't have to hate each other. We don't have to think badly about each other. You know, one of the things that's clear to me, and I tried to reach it before, is that you have a different vision of where we go in politics. I don't think utopia is possible to achieve, and I think it's dangerous to try to achieve it. I think on the left, they tend to think, you know, there's an ultimate perfection, pass enough bills that are just right, and spend enough money, and you're going to reach a state of perfection.
You're such a good Republican. It all started out with how nice this show is, and now you got into politics again.
All I'm saying is we can have these different views, but that doesn't mean that we have to be difficult with each other or not like each other, or we have to name call and all.
Right.
No.
I don't think you're a bad person. The fact you're so
Democrat.
so huge of a
Sometimes, wait,
statement.
no, I'm going to say sometimes he is. Sometimes he.
Yeah. No, I've talked to Al. Al does think you're a bad person.
Yeah, I have to go back at him, and I got to scramble.
He says to me, I'm having a cookout. Would you like to come? I said, yes. He says, well, you can't. They're all Republicans.
I gave him the wrong date.
No, I heard that, but I heard that because I went to the cookout and we're having a little bit of fun at your expense on that one.
Yeah, you would have got your family.
Gave me the wrong address.
No, you know, he did vote against the gas tax. You know,
Did you really?
He did vote. Did you know
Good
that
for
he
you.
voted against the gas tax?
Did you really?
Because Democrats there, you know, even though they siphoned $38 million for operation
No,
funds.
hold on
in
a second.
2010.
You wanted more tax,
No,
didn't you?
let me get something
You're
really
gonna tell me, did they
straight.
siphon $38 million in 2010?
Hold on a second. I did not vote for the gas tax, all right? And now I'm going to be honest with you, it was very political. Why I didn't do it.
Define political.
Why I didn't, because I knew it was going to pass, and if I thought there was 1 or 2 votes and it might have not passed, I would have voted for it. I sat back and I just said, hold on a second.
Do you think there should
Hold
have
on
been a
second.
gas tax?
No, yes,
Then why did you
no.
vote against
I
it?
think a gas tax probably should be, instead of 4.5 cents right away, I think it should be a little slower, but a little bit more down the road. So it's a little bit more easy.
Your Democrats
Easier.
went
Would you
after
have
it.
voted for it after you voted against it? Is that what I'm?
God.
You know,
Did I
let
hear
me ask
this?
you something. Did you vote against the
That
fuel?
won't work here.
The fuel tax?
John Kerry, tell me about
I
this,
know,
John.
I know.
I don't remember. But remember the heating oil tax here, the 25 cents, where they said, oh, it's only a quarter, but that 25 cents for a 275-gallon tank, that's $68 a fill-up.
You know
Right.
what's interesting about what you're saying is.
Did you
is
vote for that?
That came into our, because we're consumer affairs also. Besides banking and insurance, we're consumer
Oh, you
affairs.
mean Speaker
And that
Novelli, the
came
bully,
in
let
a
you do
lot,
that?
about oil and
the
things
bully
of that
let her
sort.
do that?
I don't think anybody agrees with that.
But why just vote it in?
I don't think a Democrat believes that we should raise prices.
But you did.
especially on
Why
heating
did you
oil.
vote it in then?
But I think you brought up a good point. One of the points is that it's factual. We pay a lot of money for electricity up here.
Yes.
Why?
Oh, well, because we have RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is basically the environmentalists have got together and effectively put a surcharge on the generation of electricity because they think it'll help
The scrubbers?
the scrubbers over at the Bow plant.
That's right.
That was
millions
what,
of dollars.
$280 million. It was a huge amount of
Hold on a
money.
second. Didn't we have something called acid rain where it was killing our
give it
fish?
up.
Killing our forest.
acid-
And wasn't it the scrubbers when they put it on stopped?
break, the
Don't
acid
give me
rain.
this. I'm trying to ask you guys a decent question. Why up here in New Hampshire?
That's a bunch
Acid
of-
rain didn't come
That
from
had
plants in
nothing
New
to do with it.
Hampshire.
You
No,
forced
of
the
course
company
not.
to
It
spend
came from
$200
across the
million.
country.
Now, let me ask you something. How come under Lynch and under Maggie Hassard just a couple days ago, her commissioners and the Public Utilities Commission keep authorizing like Liberty, the electric company there, just raised their...
$50.
50 by 30 was it? There's 30 or 40%.
they raised.
You say it's good.
PUC, they
You say
raised
it's
theirs.
good times.
Under governors, Democrat governors, they keep raising the energy.
Can you say it's good times when we're having seven?
I ask you a question
And we're
that I
giving you the
know
fact.
an answer to, and all you guys
We told you,
turn around
disagree.
and use the same thing that you always use.
But it's fact,
We
it's the
don't
truth.
have enough companies up here that are generating.
Well, you have third parties.
Should we
That's
not have
true.
another nuclear power plant
since they
up here?
deregulated.
Should we not?
First of
should
all,
we connect it?
first of all,
should we get it?
First of all, the listeners ought to be aware of the fact that New Hampshire exports electricity. But we have a very, very high generating cost, except for Seabrook, except for nuclear. And I do think we ought to be looking at nuclear power.
And and there are people out there, because I was, from the 60s, and I certainly was against it at the time, but guess what? I mean,
You seen the light? You want to come with the
no,
Republicans?
after Japan, I'm really
Guess what?
against it.
He was wrong.
He was.
How did How did that happen?
After Japan, I'm really against it. No.
I think with Ken, it was a temporary setback.
No, but I think everybody is got to, because that's how the show works. I think everybody's got to get to a point where we start talking about it, and I think nuclear power probably may be, if it can be proven safe. It certainly hasn't been in the recent past. I mean, you talk about
my understanding. I'm none of us here are nuclear scientists, but in point of fact, from reading in this area, there's new methods of generating nuclear power that could well be safer. I think we ought to be open to it. There's been some very bad incidents, you know. In Japan there was Chernobyl. There was
boy.
3 Mile Island. There was. On the other hand, they do have ways of generating it now that seem to preclude a runaway reaction,
Do you know South
which would be
Carolina?
very good.
What about the people trying to stop windmills?
Yeah, but you know,
and
some
solar
windmills-
Oh, you mean
power
those eagle
up here
killers?
in state of
very
New
familiar
Hampshire?
with
Are you
windmills.
against? Are you
Ken.
to stop that?
You know, Ken, in
That's
point
a
of fact, in point of fact, if it can make it in the marketplace, then fine.
It
The
can.
problem is that those are heavily subsidized.
That's
We've
right.
now had 20 years, 30 years since the
We haven't
president.
had them up here 30 years, but
Since the presidency of Jimmy Carter, we've been trying to subsidize wind and solar.
and what's wrong with that?
It doesn't make it in the marketplace.
Bill, can I add something to that?
It adds to the cost. And you asked one of the reasons why it's so costly here is because there's mandated purchases from wind-generated power that is set at a rate that is very high.
Hold on a
it's
second.
windmills.
I come from a family of inventors. One of the great problems we have here is the grid. And the national grid that we have here is just obsolete, practically.
Nationally, it's an
Also,
old grid.
one thing we cannot do, but a breakthrough has come, is we cannot hold electricity. The way we do it is through batteries, etc. But you can't take like a nuclear power plant and have a battery system that can hold it when it's not used. Also, what a lot of people don't know, we lose 20% of the electricity going over the wires.
Do you know the
Okay,
storage
so
capacity for
if
windmills
all
is
we need
terrible?
is a few breakthroughs like that, if we could get 20% more electricity just by, redoing things, that's probably the way that we can go. And
And you know what? The market will recognize when that's happened.
Right.
We don't have to subsidize. We don't have to take hard-working taxpayers' money
That's right.
and give it to a bunch of Spanish owners
then
of
they
those
abandon
windmills
that's not
up in
nice.
Grafton County.
That's
'Cause
not
That's
nice.
exactly what's happening. It may be nice, but
Are
it
they
may not be
making
nice.
electricity?
At a cost that is driving
making
up
electricity? At a cost that's driving up electricity.
No,
Can I-
that's
can I speak on
driving
this?
up the cost. We have some of the highest electric rates in the country. Part of it is because we are required to use windmill-generated electricity. So it's not making it in
And
the
it's the
marketplace.
grid,
you know, Mike, I'm
and
gonna say
you
something.
can't
It's not the
hold
grid.
it, and you
Bill.
can't transfer it.
It's not the grid. It's
That's
not the
it.
grid.
All
Bill,
right.
do you know?
The grid problems with the grid is the national problem. I agree with you.
It's national, but it's also, when you say national, New Hampshire is part of, we do create electricity here. We've got to get it from A to B.
You know what's astounding? If you go up to Rumney, right near Plymouth, where some of those big wind generators are, they're 400 feet in the air. You know,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Northern Pass,
The
400
noise-
feet above the terrain.
So does that bother you?
And the noise.
Does that bother you?
Can I add something there?
You know,
I'm
it
very
bothers me
familiar
as
with
much as Northern
windmills.
Pass would, because Northern Pass, those pylons are only supposed to be a couple hundred feet high, 180, 200 feet high. These are double the height. And they kill a lot of birds, and they're costly. And we're taking hard-working taxpayer money
yeah.
and sending it
You
to the
know,
owners in Spain in order to allow some Greens to feel good about
I really
themselves.
find it interesting when somebody,
You know some
It's
Yucca
frustrating.
Valley?
We got
You familiar with
4.5
we gotta
minutes
talk.
left.
You familiar with
Let's
Yucca
talk
Valley
about
and
the show.
29 Palms out in the desert?
Yes. Is that where they put that solar
There's
thing?
hundreds and hundreds of windmills, okay? They're all rusted out. The people took their subsidies, their money from the government. They're not rebuilding them. They're just left sitting there. That's going to be New Hampshire, our terrain.
Okay, we got 4.5 minutes left.
It's a shame.
Well, you've been here a while. Has this show have any substance? Does this work at all?
Ken, it hasn't successfully deep sixed my political career yet. I know that was your. I know that was your hope.
Well, I got rid of you from not running, going to the House.
I don't think you did that, but maybe that was your goal. I don't know.
That was my goal.
Oh, good.
You know, Bill, can I take them under my wing when you're the speaker?
You can take them somewhere.
Can I help them out?
Have you enjoyed yourself doing this?
Oh, I have, Ken. But I've enjoyed knowing you and
Has it
getting to know.
helped you from, you're going to go back as speaker. Have you learned anything over the period of time if you do go back as a speaker?
Put him in the back of the room.
Put his parking lot, his spot down.
I'm gonna put your parking space is going to be out of the Epsom circle. I've learned that, Ken.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
It's only noon time. Ken hasn't got here yet this session, but he's on his way. We're told.
No, you know, I got to tell you that people that watch the show.
I have to be good to this gentleman because if he becomes Speaker of the House, he can put me anywhere.
You know, that's actually not true. What you end up doing is you go to the minority leader and you talk, you know, where do you want your people to be? And usually you go along with it. The only, when Terry Norelli gave me, when she was minority leader, seating, I agreed with everything except one. I guess.
And I know who that is.
And I guess somebody had run against her. Dave Campbell had run against her. And so she gave him a lousy seat. And I said to her, Terry, I'm not going to do that. I said, this is a senior member. You know, let's show some respect. And so, you know,
So you spoke up for Dave?
I did.
Wow.
You know?
How come the Democrats didn't speak
And,
up?
You know, I
and
didn't
by the
agree.
way, we have
Did it
talked.
work?
We have talked about this off.
No, they didn't mention that.
Yeah,
They didn't mention
we
that.
talked about this off air, and you're mentioning it for the first time, and that's true.
Yeah.
I know that that's true.
I didn't know about the ducks then.
That was wrong. I didn't know that. I didn't
Poor
know that.
Dave.
The ducks were-
Poor Dave, yeah.
Poor Dave.
5 ducks.
I shouldn't have mentioned
He
that.
means well.
Yeah.
You know, he tried. He got
But are you gonna, if you go back as speaker, can you see any changes? I mean,
You know, there's a couple of things I'd like to do. I'd gone to Terry when we were putting together the House, and I said, you know, let's mix it up. You know, let's mix up Democrats and Republicans and on the House floor, kind of break down the little bit of the partisan divide. And she said, Bill, don't do that. And she said, we're a small minority. You really hurt us.
it's true.
And
It is true.
so
That is true.
She comes in and she does it herself. And even though Gene Chandler had asked not to do it.
Hold on,
but what
a
am
second.
but you asked me.
What she did was good, and what you let her
and he
do
was going to be bad.
And what you
Republicans.
did by letting her do this was good because it was a very small group of people.
So whatever, you try to
would've
accommodate
worked
the other
hand in
side.
hand,
So you
come
asked me what I'm going to do. One of the things is I'd like to sit people on the House floor, the members, if I get to be Speaker, by committees, because committees develop an expertise in their subject matter. And I think if we can break down the divide by saying, if you're on Commerce, you begin to think more, whether it's Democrat or Republican, your colleagues in Commerce and how hard you've worked together. And people begin to respect committees more. If they see committees sitting together, their bills are coming forward and they're supporting it without regard to Republican or Democrat. So that's one of the things I'd like to be able to do when I get up there.
Good. Now, we're going to run probably 2 or 3 minutes over because, you know, I'm sure they can cut something out, which will probably be me. All right. So the show, you've been doing this show. You do another show,
I've
but
gotten a lot
it's
of
strictly with
compliments.
Republicans.
No, actually, I invite Democrats. I had you on.
Yeah, well.
And everyone laughed, but I mean, on the facts. But I mean, you know, we did a good job together and stuff. So, but you know, some with this is good because a lot of people ask me, Al, thank you for the show. Because they say that, you know, they can decipher who's saying what and all that. And they're smart enough to know.
But if
and
I'm the
look up.
only Democrat coming on.
No, most of the time it's just you and I, or it was just you and Bill. But they understand and they can read through the BS and what's facts and what's not. And then it's a good education show.
Okay, how can they get in touch with you?
They can reach me at www.albaldasaro.com. Call me at 425-6997. or like my constituents stop by my house in
And you're
Hall
running
Road in Londonderry.
where?
I'm running for Londonderry state rep for my 5th term.
5th term.
Also running again, also running for my 5th term. And congratulations to you, Al. And you can, the best way to get a hold of me is just call me up at home, same as Al, 673-6610, or send me an email. It's just my name spelled out, William L. O'Brien @gmail.com, and I'll get back to you.
Do you have Facebook?
Yeah, I
You
have a
guys have
Facebook
Facebook?
page.
We
Yeah,
all have Facebook.
if you look me up on Facebook, I'm there. And I'm running in Mount Vernon, New Boston, and I appreciate your consideration.
And my name is
And
Ken
the
Gidge.
speaker.
Yeah. Well, that's supposedly what's going to happen. This is going to be very interesting. My name is Ken Gidge. I am running for Ward 6 Alderman again. This will be my 4th term. If they let me back after the show, who knows? But you can get me simply by going to kgidge@aol.com or Facebook or telephone number 8649332. And this has been The Art of Politics, and this has been the 100th show. Come on, take a little. I'll throw it in the air because that's how we're going to end the show. The 100th show, if it's good, bad. Okay, so thanks for watching. Thank you very much. You ready? Let's go. Bastards. Bastards.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.